Continuing tonight on Newsmax Prime, the Supreme Court decides not to decide the case concerning contraception, religious freedom, and the Little Sisters of the Poor. Miranda Kahn chronicles how this all came to pass.
JD, sometimes to get perspective on things, you need to look back before you can move forward.
Today we applaud the Supreme Court.
2 years ago, Hobby Lobby made national headlines and history when the Supreme Court ruled profit organizations can hold religious views. The decision allowed the Oklahoma-based arts and crafts chain store to opt out of contraception requirements listed under Obamacare. The ruling sparked praise.
I support them 150%.
And outcry.
This isn't over. We're still fighting.
And fighting, both sides did. Back then, the decision came down 5-4. Now, with only 8 justices evenly split, decisiveness seems less likely. Today is a prime example. Instead of reaching a decision on the 7 consolidated cases presented by Christian nonprofit employers challenging the Obamacare mandate to provide contraception, they simply punted it back to the lower courts, a decision many see as a victory for the Obama administration.
This announcement does ensure that millions of women across the country can continue to have access to their health care.
But it wasn't a total win for the Obama administration. The court also opted to throw out lower court rulings that had favored the Obama administration. Bottom line, the power of these decisions now rests with the lower courts. JD, back to you.
Thanks very much, Miranda. Remember, we are taking your phone calls throughout our broadcast at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. For more on the non-decision from the United States Supreme Court, let's welcome in from Newsmax Washington, Stephanie Barclay, legal counsel for the Becket Fund for Religious Liberties, one of the attorneys representing the Little Sisters of the Poor. Now, Stephanie, it's good to have you back here. But it's interesting to hear the spin, and I want you to listen. This is not testimony on the stand, but it is political spin from the White House press room. Here's Josh Earnest with a bit more of how he was spinning it today.
Let me start by saying that we obviously were pleased with the announcement from the Supreme Court today. It will allow millions of women across the country to continue to get the health care coverage that they need.
All right, so that's what he's saying. What say you, Stephanie?
Well, I think that it's right that the Supreme Court has come up with an order that will allow women to get access to all the services that they need, and that's what the Little Sisters have been arguing all along, is that there are ways for the government to protect religious liberty while still accomplishing its goals. So this is no different from what the Little Sisters have been saying in that regard. But why this case and this order from the Supreme Court today, that was unanimous, by the way, is a victory for the Little Sisters of the Poor, is because the Supreme Court threw out all of the bad lower court decisions and said that the Little Sisters are protected from having to either pay the huge government fines that were being threatened against them or choose to violate their religious beliefs. The Supreme Court also accepted the government's concession that it has many other ways to accomplish its goals and provide contraception that don't involve the nuns. And the Supreme Court is sending these cases back with a judicial roadmap for a win-win solution that would both protect religious liberty and allow the government to accomplish its goals.
So, Stephanie, thanks for coming on, not having the meter running, at least not for legal fees for me, but I need a little more free advice. You say establish a roadmap. In essence, is this looking for both sides to find some sort of settlement to the case, almost like we see in so much civil activity involving businesses and the like?
Well, there's a lot of different outcomes that could result from this, but the bottom line is that the Supreme Court is saying, look, we acknowledge that the government has conceded that it can modify its program, that it can do so in a way that does not involve the nuns, and it sent this back saying this is an opportunity for the government to make sure that it's actually accommodating the religious exercise of the Little Sisters. And the Supreme Court said that lower courts need to give the parties time to make sure that they're coming to a resolution that will provide for that sort of win-win scenario where the Little Sisters are protected and the government can accomplish its goals. So definitely, this may result in a situation where both parties walk away winners, and that's something that the Little Sisters have always hoped for this case.
And Stephanie, we very much appreciate your assessment of what is transpiring there tonight from Newsmax Washington. Stephanie Barclay, legal counsel for the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty. Thanks very much. We really appreciate your time.